They called her just a mechanic and laughed when she claimed to know how to fly the F-4 Phantom II. The cocky male pilots at Da Nang Air Base thought some wrench-turner couldn't handle the most dangerous fighter jet in Vietnam, until enemy MiGs appeared over the DMZ, and the only pilot who could get them home was the woman they'd been mocking in the maintenance hangar. The oppressive humidity of Vietnam hung like a wet blanket over Da Nang Air Base as Staff Sergeant Linda Hayes wiped grease from her hands and stepped back from the F-4 Phantom II she'd been working on since dawn. The massive twin-engine fighter sat like a caged predator on the flight line, its shark-mouthed nose art grinning menacingly in the tropical sun. To the fighter pilots preparing for their next mission over North Vietnam, she was just another maintenance technician, someone who fixed aircraft while they flew the dangerous missions that would either make them aces or get them killed. At 24 years old, with strawberry blonde hair pulled back under a regulation cap and coveralls stained with hydraulic fluid, Linda looked exactly like what she was supposed to be, a skilled mechanic who kept the Phantoms flying while others got the glory of combat. The male pilots barely acknowledged her presence as they conducted their pre-flight briefings, their attention focused on the deadly game of air-to-air combat over the skies of Southeast Asia. What they didn't know was that Linda had learned to fly F-4 Phantoms during a classified program that tested female pilots' capabilities in combat aircraft. For 18 months before her deployment to Vietnam, she'd accumulated over 400 hours in the Phantom, including air-to-air combat training that had proved she could fly and fight as well as any male pilot. Her reassignment to maintenance duties hadn't been due to lack of ability. It was because the Air Force wasn't ready to officially acknowledge that women could be effective combat pilots. The war in Vietnam was reaching its peak intensity in 1968, with American forces engaging increasingly sophisticated enemy aircraft flown by experienced North Vietnamese pilots. The F-4 Phantom II had become the backbone of American air superiority efforts, but pilot casualties were mounting as enemy tactics evolved and surface-to-air missile threats increased throughout the region. The morning's mission called for a fighter sweep over the DMZ, where intelligence reports indicated increasing MiG activity. 4 F-4 Phantoms would conduct the patrol, using their powerful radars and long-range missiles to clear the airspace for follow-on strike missions against strategic targets in North Vietnam. Captain Rick Donovan led the flight, a veteran pilot with 180 combat missions and 2 confirmed MiG kills to his credit. His wingman, Lieutenant Jake Morrison, had considerable experience in Southeast Asian operations. Both were skilled aviators who'd learned to survive in an environment where enemy fighters appeared without warning, and surface-to-air missiles could destroy even the most advanced American aircraft. But the squadron was short on experienced pilots due to the increasingly dangerous nature of operations over North Vietnam. When Donovan's regular weapons systems officer became ill with tropical fever, the flight faced the possibility of cancellation at a critical time when enemy air activity was threatening American strike operations. "We need a qualified WSO for this mission," Donovan told the squadron operations officer. "Can't fly single seat against MiGs in this threat environment." Linda, who'd been monitoring the discussion while conducting routine maintenance, stepped forward. "Captain, I'm qualified as a weapons systems officer in the F-4. Donovan stared at her in disbelief. "You're a mechanic, Hayes. Operating radar and weapon systems in combat is completely different from turning wrenches." Linda pulled out her training records, showing certification in all F-4 weapons and navigation systems. "Sir, I completed WSO training before my deployment. I'm current on all systems and combat procedures." The operations officer verified her credentials with obvious surprise. "She's right, Donovan. Her records show full qualification, though I'm not sure why a maintenance technician would have weapon systems training." Donovan reluctantly agreed to take Linda as his WSO, primarily because mission requirements left no alternative. "Fine, but stay quiet and do exactly what I tell you. Combat flying isn't like training flights. Real missiles are designed to kill people." 30 minutes later, all 4 F-4 Phantoms rolled down Da Nang's main runway and lifted into the hazy Vietnamese sky. The formation climbed steadily toward their patrol altitude of 35,000 feet, where they would begin searching for enemy aircraft using the Phantom's sophisticated radar systems. Linda settled into the familiar rhythm of combat systems operation, her hands moving across radar controls and weapons panels with unconscious precision. The F-4's backseat felt natural to her, despite months of working only on aircraft maintenance. Years of training had taught her to manage multiple tasks simultaneously while maintaining tactical awareness of rapidly changing air combat situations. Dragonflight, this is Red Crown, came the voice of the Navy radar controller monitoring North Vietnamese airspace. We're tracking multiple contacts bearing 0 to 10 degrees, range 80 miles, altitude unknown. Appears to be coordinated MiG activity moving south toward the DMZ. Donovan acknowledged the warning while checking his own radar display, which showed empty airspace in the reported direction. The F-4's radar was powerful, but had limitations at extreme range against low-flying targets using terrain masking. Linda was already analyzing radar returns that Donovan hadn't noticed, using techniques she'd learned during her classified training program. "Captain, I'm seeing intermittent contacts at low altitude using valley masking. Multiple aircraft in tactical formation, probably MiG-21s based on their radar signature characteristics." Donovan glanced at his display, seeing nothing but ground clutter and weather return. "Hayes, I don't see anything on my scope. Are you sure you know how to operate that equipment?" Linda continued tracking the contacts, watching them execute sophisticated approach tactics that indicated experienced enemy pilots. "Sir, they're using coordinated low-altitude penetration, staying below radar coverage until they reach firing position. This is a classic MiG-21 attack profile. Hayes, I'm the pilot up here. I know what enemy aircraft look like on radar." But Linda's analysis proved accurate 15 minutes later, when 4 MiG-21 fighters appeared simultaneously at medium altitude, having used terrain masking and coordinated timing to achieve tactical surprise against the American patrol. The North Vietnamese pilots had executed a perfect intercept, positioning themselves for first shot advantage before the F-4s realized they were under attack. "Dragonflight, we have multiple contacts. MiGs at our 12 o'clock, 15 miles and closing fast." Linda was already maneuvering the radar to achieve missile lock while simultaneously operating electronic countermeasures to defeat incoming enemy missiles. "Captain, I have radar lock on the lead MiG. Sparrow missile ready for launch." The air battle that followed demonstrated the deadly ballet of supersonic air combat, with both sides maneuvering for killing shots while avoiding enemy missiles. Linda's radar operation proved flawless, maintaining target locks despite aggressive enemy jamming, while coordinating with other F-4s to achieve maximum tactical advantage. "Fox 1, Sparrow away!" Donovan called as Linda's perfectly timed radar guidance sent an AIM-7 missile streaking toward the lead MiG-21. The North Vietnamese fighter attempted evasive maneuvers, but couldn't escape the precisely guided American missile. The engagement continued for 20 minutes, with Linda providing radar and weapons guidance that allowed Donovan to achieve 2 more missile kills while avoiding enemy fire. Her tactical awareness and systems operation were turning what could have been a dangerous surprise attack into a decisive victory for American forces. Dragon lead. Splash 3 MiGs. Remaining enemy aircraft are withdrawing to the north. After landing at Da Nang, Donovan approached Linda with a completely different attitude than he'd displayed during the pre-flight briefing. "Hayes, where did you learn to operate combat systems like that? That wasn't mechanic-level radar work." Linda secured the aircraft systems and gathered her flight gear before answering. "Sir, I received comprehensive training in F-4 weapon systems operation before my assignment to maintenance duties. But why would a mechanic need combat systems training?" For the first time, Linda's professional demeanor shifted slightly. "Sir, some training programs test capabilities that aren't officially recognized yet. I learned to operate F-4 systems because someone wanted to know if it was possible." Donovan realized he was discovering something that had been hidden from most of the squadron. "You're telling me you're actually a qualified combat systems operator?" "I'm telling you that some people receive training that doesn't match their official assignments, and some capabilities aren't used until circumstances require them." The mission debrief revealed that Linda had achieved radar locks on 5 different enemy aircraft during the engagement, all successful despite sophisticated North Vietnamese jamming attempts. Her tactical coordination had been flawless, demonstrating expertise that surprised even experienced combat veterans. Word of the engagement spread throughout the fighter community at Da Nang. The story of the maintenance technician who'd helped achieve 3 MiG kills became legendary among F-4 crews operating over North Vietnam. The next week, Donovan specifically requested Linda as his WSO for all combat missions. Her radar and weapons expertise proved invaluable for achieving air superiority in an environment where enemy capabilities were constantly evolving. But Linda never revealed the full scope of her pilot training. She understood that her combat flying experience had to remain classified, and that her contributions were most effective when they appeared to come from weapon systems operation rather than actual flying experience. During tactical briefings for new F-4 crews arriving in Vietnam, she would often remind them that air combat success required teamwork between pilot and weapon systems operator. The F-4 is only as good as both crew members working together, she would tell them. Trust your WSO's radar picture and remember that enemy pilots are getting better every month. Months later, when North Vietnamese MiG activity intensified, American air superiority operations relied heavily on radar techniques that Linda had developed during her classified training program. Her understanding of enemy tactics and electronic warfare proved critical for maintaining American advantages despite increasingly sophisticated opposition. Years later, F-4 pilots throughout Southeast Asia would credit Linda with revolutionizing their understanding of weapon systems operation in complex threat environments. They learned that expertise often existed in unexpected places and that some of the most valuable combat knowledge came from people whose full capabilities couldn't be officially acknowledged. The F-4 Phantom II continued to dominate air-to-air combat throughout the Vietnam War. Flown by crews who understood that success required collaboration between pilots and weapon systems operators whose individual skills combined to create capabilities that neither could achieve alone. Linda's contributions to air combat operations remained largely classified, but her influence on tactical procedures ensured that hundreds of F-4 crews benefited from lessons learned during her secret pilot training program. She had chosen mission success over recognition, understanding that the most important victories were often achieved by people whose full abilities had to remain hidden.